In this video, we'll be going over how to connect your PEX account to QuickBooks Online utilizing the PEX QuickBooks Online app. The QuickBooks Online app provides a daily connection between PEX and your QuickBooks Online account. First, navigate to the Apps tab, which is the last tab of the menu options on the left. Within that tab, click the Available subtab. Here, you'll be able to scroll through the available apps we have in the PEX Marketplace until you find the QuickBooks Online app. Click on the tile for the QBO app, and a pop-up window will appear. Click Install to install the app in your Installed Apps section, and the button will change from Install to Launch. Hit the Launch button to continue in a new tab. A new tab will open with a button that says Connect to QuickBooks. Once you click that button, it will open a new window that asks you to log in with your Intuit account. Once you log in with your Intuit information, your PEX account and your Intuit account will be linked together, and we can start configuring the app settings. Once you have connected the accounts, the window will change to have either 3 or 5 tabs. If the window you have in front of you only has 3 tabs, stop here and go watch the video on setting up tags in the PEX platform, as you will need those to continue properly. If you have 5 tabs, including one that says Configure Tag Mapping and one that says Configure Expense Category, you can start the configuration. The first tab is titled Choose What to Sync. The first option is to import all transactions as they come into the PEX system, or to only sync over the approved transactions from the PEX system. If you choose Only Approved Transactions, you'll be able to double-check these transactions for the correct receipts tags before they sync, whereas the All option, which will sync everything regardless of attachments. The next option in this tab is whether or not you would like to import the receipts from transactions as expense attachments. The next option is a toggle switch that allows you to determine if you would like to sync your bank transfers over into QBO from PEX. If you have this option turned on, you will have to select a bank option from the drop-down list to determine which bank your funds will be transferring from in these transfers to PEX. The next toggle option under this is similar in that it allows you to choose if you would like to sync PEX fees over to QBO. If you would like to sync PEX fees over, you need to pick a default expense account for QBO to mark the journal entry when it imports. The next option covers how you would like vendor data to be assigned on individual transactions. If you would like PEX to automatically search your vendor accounts for the vendor that came in on the transaction, and then make one if you don't already have one, then turn on the toggle switch next to Create a Vendor Account for each unique merchant. The benefit of this is that you will always have the most detailed version of the transaction in your system. The downside of this is that if there are multiple Walmarts, Targets, or other chain stores that you frequently shop at, a new vendor will be created for each of them, as technically they all have different franchise numbers. If you would prefer not to do this, you'll need to set a default vendor for all of the transactions as they come in. A strategy many of our customers use is to create a vendor account in your system called PEX, and then set that as the default vendor in the system. The last option here is going to be the Start Date field, where you can decide when you would like the app to start the transfer of transactions from. For example, you can set the start date to the beginning of a prior month, and then the app will pull all transactions from then onwards based on the rules set above. Or you can set it to start on the 1st of the next month, and it will only start pulling in transactions from then onwards. The second menu tab is titled Configure Sync Options. In this tab, you're provided with 2 drop-down menu options to help you choose the assigned payment account and payment method for the journal entries made for each transaction. There are toggle switches to create the suggested payment account called PEX Account, and the suggested payment method PEX Card. If you prefer not to toggle these and create the new payment account payment method, then you will instead need to choose which payment method and payment account you would like to assign from the list already available in your QuickBooks Online account, such as payments you may have labeled Petty Cash, P-Card, Visa, Debit, etc. The third tab in the app configuration menu is titled Configure Expense Category. In this tab, you can map the appropriate tag from your PEX account that you have set up in your general ledger codes, for example, Chart of Accounts, Expense Categories, etc., to the Expense Category section in QBO. By selecting the corresponding tag from the drop-down menu in this tab, you're telling QBO to take the information stored on each transaction under that tag as expense category information. This way, QBO will be able to mark each journal entry with the GL code selected by the cardholder in PEX. There is also a switch next to the drop-down that says Sync Tag Options from QuickBooks. This switch, when toggled on, will sync over all of the options you have for GL codes in QBO and replace everything you have in the PEX tag and fill it to mirror QBO. This makes for a very easy way to fill out the PEX tag with everything from QBO. If you only want a small subset of your GL codes available to your cardholders, do not toggle this option. The fourth tab in the app menu is titled Configure Tag Mapping. This is where you will do mapping similar to the third tab, but for alternate tags other than the necessary expense categories. You do not need to map anything in this category if you do not have the tags for these options, or if you do not want that information to map over into QBO. For each option here, you're able to pick a PEX tag that aligns with the QBO data point and sync that data over into QBO. The options available to map to are Customer, Billable, and Tax. Customer will allow you to map over information regarding who the customer was for the transaction of your list of clients in QBO if you have such a list. The other two options are strictly for if you use tags to track who the billable party for the journal entry is, or the amount of tax that was applied to the purchase. If these do not apply to you, proceed to skip these and continue. The fifth and final tab in the QBO app configuration menu is titled Choose Default Expense Category. The system needs a default expense category to mark journal entries into QBO in case a transaction goes into QBO that was not tagged by a cardholder or an administrator. The best option for this will be the most generic recognized as uncategorized, such as uncategorized expense, miscellaneous expense, not yet classified, or ask administrator. This way, anything that makes it over to QBO does not get misclassified at the start since it will remain static. There are also two toggle switches at the bottom. These switches determine where the notes made by cardholders when reconciling transactions will appear on the journal entry as it comes into QuickBooks. Both can be turned on at the same time, or you can choose one or the other based on your preference. We often recommend you start with both turned on just to see what both look like, and then you can edit to either one or the other later. Once you're done with the tabs above, hit the Finish button in the bottom right corner, and the app will save your preferences to prepare for the first sync. These settings can be changed at any time. Now that you've set up your connector, click on the green button under Manage Connector in order to sync your account.